Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Wednesdays. Today, I'm joined by Robert Finley, amazing country blues artist who just put out the title track to his new album, Sharecroppers Son. And his actual full album will be out on May 21st. We're really excited to hear it and excited to talk to him about his story. How's it going, Robert? How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Doing great.
Awesome. Usually I ask people to give a little bit of a background, but you have a very long background, so I'm going to start a little bit more specific. When did you first get interested in making music in general?
All my life, since I was big enough to sit in front of a TV, I wanted to figure out how to get in there. As far back as I can remember. I got my first guitar at the age of 10. And before then, I had got a chance to play with a friend of mine's guitar. And I was supposed to have been buying a pair of shoes, and I happened to have $20, and they had a guitar for $19.95. So I took the guitar instead of the shoes. So.
Priorities.
Yeah. You got to follow your dream. You got to follow your heart. I had shoes before, but I had never had a guitar on my own. So that was my choice at that time.
What did it feel like when you purchased that guitar yourself and brought it home with you?
My dad said that you wouldn't spend all that money on that guitar and can't play Mama's Baby. But all the way home from the store, we was about a 5-mile walk. I actually, played the whole 5 miles. And I had blisters on my fingers, and I would bust the blister and keep playing and make another blister. And till a friend of mine introduced me to guitar picks. And then I started to rapping with the picks, but it's always been a fantasy to entertain. All through school, everywhere. Being the class clown,
I see that you have that class clown energy. I could feel it.
Yeah. But my dad used to be a quartet singer, and he also would just lead songs during the church service. So I don't know how I got from church to blues, because my dad always said the blues was the devil's music, but after years of experience, I found out that the blues is not that bad. The blues is really reality, telling the truth. So it's not a lot of difference between blues and gospel, except sometimes people will exaggerate with the blues, where with the gospel, it is what it is. So growing up with a religious background, that made me a firm believer in what I was trying to do.
Yeah. And your album that's coming out is a very storytelling kind of album too, that tells a lot about your life and your childhood and how you grew up. How did you decide that you wanted to share that story?
Well, because so many people had started asking me. Once I toured with the Black Keys and became a worldwide, worldwide household name or something. All I had to do was say Black Keys, and people would relate to what I was talking about. So I was really on the dad's blanket, because he took me on tour with him to do shows, and when he went to show, he always would call me out in the middle of his show and as a special guest. And that meant that everybody that was glued to the TV to see Dan Arbach was going to see Robert Finley for the first time. So I'm really grateful because he got me to what you call get your foot in the door, because a lot of people would have not known who Robert Finley were if I hadn't have been maybe a special guest or Dan in the middle of his show. Somebody went to Dan Arbach's concert and Dan drops Robert Finley in their lap, you know. And so yeah, I'll forever be grateful.
So when did you first meet Dan? Because he also helped produce this album too, right?
Right. Yeah. He did it. On this particular album, I was concerned about the writing and the vocal. Dan has some of the greatest musicians that, you know, that's still alive, that works in his studio. And so it was easy to put it in his hand as far as the music arrangements. I did not participate in that. I didn't worry about that. I focused on the story and the vocal. You know, I didn't go and say, hey, let's do it like this or let's do it like that. I totally trusted him to put the music package, and he totally trusted me to deliver the message, because it was my life that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And who could tell it better than me? How you say, if you ain't been there, you ain't done it. You know, Dan was amazing even in the studio, because he never picked no cotton. He never knew nothing about all this stuff, you know, I'm singing about. But Bobby Woods, Pat Goin, these guys that's been writing for years, ever since I've been old enough to remember, they knew exactly what I was talking about. And so the thing were to come out with something that's new to the young generation, and it all at the same time, it's a reminder to the older generation. So when you can get mama, daddy, grandma, and grandbabies in the same room and get them to dance to the same music, then you have closed the generation gap as far as music is concerned. And I think that's really what me and Dan had done. We may have not closed it all the way, but we closed out 30-something years of it, because I'm in my 60s and he is in his 30s. So, but as long as we go on like this, you know.
I love that, because there's definitely like modern day blues music, but it talks mostly about current issues and things like that. And I think people don't realize how recent things like working in a cotton field is, and it's something that's special for people. I'm around Dan's age, you know, people around 30 and younger who haven't like had too much upfront experience with that, to be able to hear something like that, and especially in the current state of the world, I'm glad that it's nice to come out.
And also, you got to keep in mind that this album was really written a year and a half ago, and it was written, but it was all, you know, the reality of it is, it seems like it was written yesterday because of the situations that the world are in. It's clicking right with the record. So everything happens for a reason. We couldn't release it last year because we knew people couldn't come to the show, people couldn't do nothing. So it was the hardest thing to do was wait. You didn't want to make your move too soon, but a picture as a horse in the stable ready to run a race, and I'm like, I'm ready to open the gate. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's find out am I gonna win or lose. That's the attitude I had. But it was wise to wait it out because even with the rioting, the injustice, with all the stuff that's going on in the world today, uh, the song "I Can Feel Your Pain" means that it didn't happen to me, but I know what you're going through, and so that type of song will let people know that not whatever you're going through, you're not alone, and so I thought it was important to let people know that somebody else cares, even though there ain't nothing they can do about it. They can't undo it, but they can let the world know you care.
That's a great message, and I think a lot of people need to hear that right now too. And we've kind of talked, a little bit about it, but to describe a little bit more, you worked on a cornfield farm when you were a kid, and the Sharecroppers Son song, there's a line in there that says too something about not really being able to go to school and having to work on the farm. Would you be able to share more, a little bit about your experience during that time and how that
yeah, because see, at the time I was like 10 years old when we moved off the farm, so anything I did was before the age of 10, and we were too young. It was just me and my little sister. We were too young to walk to school by ourselves because the school was a couple miles from our house. And the other siblings, I had 7 siblings, but all of them were older than me except for one, except for my baby sister. In our case, there were always something to need to be done on the farm. And it didn't bother me about not being able to go to school because we only went for 3 months out of a year, and that was in between the crops and in between when the fields wasn't ready. So we really got like 2.5 months to actually go. And as soon as I realized where I was at, I kind of played hooky them days because I wasn't used to all that, be quiet, sit down, and all the rules and regulations that came with being in school, because that was not something I was used to doing. So I guess I was the class clown, and I always did stuff so I guess that's why I'm doing the boogie woogie now at the age of 65. I didn't get to play enough when I was a kid, So yeah. I'm enjoying my childhood life now. I'm living my childhood dream.
That's, you're never, age doesn't matter. You're never too young, you're never too old. You gotta do what you love when you can.
Get it while you can, babe. But I would have to say that I did what I could do on the farm. Even though I was like the water boy, I had to make sure everybody had fresh water, cool water in the field. And then that was my job at first. And then they didn't have to do all that walking. And I didn't realize they were pulling a sack and they was picking cotton. But I couldn't wait to get my own sack. And that was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. You learn from your mistake. I should have just pretend I did not know how to pick cotton. But once my daddy found out that I did have sense enough to pick it and put it in the sack, he bought me a sack. And so, sometimes it pays just pretend, just go along with the flow. But yeah, once I got my own stack, it was expected that I fill it up every day. So yeah, I picked cotton. I learned how to plow mule. In case young people don't know, giddy up tells the mule to go, woe say stop, ye mean go to the right, haul mean go to the left. And if you say ye haul, that means they do better halfway, just a little bit. So I was trying to give them a little education on that in case they would get amused. But the thing I was trying to point out most of all is the sharecroppers. Well, they were black or white or brown. If they were sharecroppers, and they be honest, they know they didn't get their share. And that's what made it so difficult. That's what really, I did not know that I was poor until, I look back over my life. Because even though we were poor, there were so many people that were poor. And so we never were hungry because we had chickens, we had hogs, we had cows, we had truck patches, My mom could cane and she put up food for year round. When there was no food in the field, she had some in the job, but we never missed a meal. So, and then there were so many people that didn't have what we had. And even though we didn't have nothing, my dad was constantly giving to the neighbors of the neighborhood. And once my mom filled up all of her jars and put away our food for the winter, my dad let whatever just come and get whatever was in the field left, because it was a thing he'd rather see them eat it than the weavers to be there for next year. So it was like let the people, let the community eat. But that was the childhood that I really remember. The difference between then and now is like day and night.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I was so fascinated with the record "Get It While You Can," because there'll come a time when it's no longer there for you. The music has to have a message, and the message has to be real. We can fantasize things and make good music, but at the same time, we need to sing about stuff that the world can relate to on a day-to-day basis. Stuff that when people listen to it, they'll say, I've been there, I've done that. And so that's, you'd be surprised with the older people that have been talking to me since we released those 3 tracks off of Sharecroppers Son. They wait. Everybody's ambitious to see what else the album has to say. So each song should be like a chapter in a book, and that would be what we were striving for.
Nice. Oh, that's really cool. That's like the best thing about music too, is being able to share a message with people and connect on that with them and be like, this is what I'm like, what I experienced in my life. You may have experienced a similar thing, and now we have something to talk about and connect on.
Yeah. If it were not true, then it would, it would be hypocritical. It could be questioned. But it's not like we were the only ones in the field. There were a lot of people in that field, and a lot of people experienced it. So it's a part of history that shouldn't be forgotten. Because the reason I say that, we take too much for granted. I'm blessed to have my health and my strength at the age of 67. I've had friends in a nursing home at the age of 37. So you gotta, that's why you gotta be grateful for where you are, and give it all you got, or I hate to keep going back to get it while you can, but one day you won't be able to, and then you'll wish you had her. If I had her, if I could have, I wish I should have. But none of that is going to change. So at the age of 67, and I have been almost totally blind, and then the good Lord restored me a partial sight to where I no longer need the walking cane.
Oh, wow.
All I can push is all I can push is faith and gratefulness, and the thing where get the world's attention and then tell them something positive. So if I had to sing the blues in the alley to get the world to listen, and then if I had to go blind to tell people about miracles, I had to experience it to be able to be convincing telling it. And God knows those 4 years that I was almost totally blind, I didn't enjoy nothing about that. But it made me realize all the things I was taking for granted.
Yeah.
And when you depend on somebody else to do everything for you, you lose your independence. And then, so thank God that I can drive myself to the doctor if I had to go, you know what I'm saying, if nobody's around. I can get on the lawnmower, I can mow my own yard, which I used to have to pay somebody to do it, and I didn't even know if they did it right or not, because I could see what they did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's kind of weird. But now that I know this is what's the important. Yeah, I love my blues, I love my R&B, I love my country ones, I love my rock and roll. But at the same time, I know where my gifts come from, and so the religious upbringing was the best thing that could happen to me. My dad taught us the morals of sharing and trying to help your neighbors and stuff. We wasn't allowed to go nowhere but church and back home, So, if I tell you something, you think I was crazy about saying it, but I guess I'm gonna say it anyway.
Go for it. I'm ready.
The first time I actually saw a white man, I ran like hell and screamed to the top of my voice because I had never seen one. That's how far we lived away from society. Back then, the older kids took care of the younger ones.
Yeah.
So you stayed at home, and mom and dad took care of everything, and they went where they wanted to go. But the kids stayed at home, and the older ones were responsible for the younger ones. So I really hadn't been around a lot of people. And I thought, because I thought I'd seen somebody with no skin, because it wasn't the color I was, and I ran like hell. And then, but I mean, I really remember that crap, that's when I realized people come in all different colors. But another thing I learned in my older age, music touches the world. And that's a tool that you can reach any race, any nationality, just through your music. And people comes together on one accord for the love of music.
Yeah.
So it's so important that your music say something positive. But every now and then you want to maybe do a joke or give people something to laugh at. But because laughter brings joy to, so it's good for people to laugh. But at the end of the day, it's good to be serious. And when you're being serious, You got to tell the truth. And to be an artist that has an opportunity to speak to the world, who would ever thought? I mean, I get calls from all over the world. People want to know about me. 5 years ago, nobody gave a damn who I was. I mean, on the real deal, nobody. Even the people that I was, my friends, and they didn't really care. Kids I went to school with, people I went to school, they wasn't reminiscing or anything, but like I say, once you go worldwide, then you more respected at home. And so, people start to realize that's my friend, that's my neighbor, that's my cousin. You get cousins that you never heard of, but it's all, it's all good. I mean, I'm not knocking it, but I got some kin folks I ain't never know nothing about. Mama, daddy, grandma, nobody never told me nothing about. But they cousins now, and that's all right. That's a good thing, because that means that people open up their heart to you and accept you into their space, into their world.
What do you think your younger self would feel like about how you are in the world now?
I would say, we finally, dreams do come true. Basically, we finally made it closer to what we dreamed of than we ever been. But to be honest, the dream is not over. As a matter of fact, I say a lot of people retire at 65, and I just said I come alive at 65. So I feel like this is all just begun. If it had happened a lot younger in life, I'm not sure I would have been mentally able to handle it, because everybody I know, everybody I love was taken away from us behind either some medication the doctor overgave them or something that they did on themselves on the street. All the rock stars, all the ones that's going on, when they actually do the autopsy, is normally drug related. So my message to the young people is, if you get sleepy, just take a nap. Why take a pill to keep from sleeping? Because you're gonna have to take another one to stay awake. So you get hung up in this on and off light switch with drugs for drugs. And sooner or later, one hard do the other. But if you're tired, just lay down. Don't let anybody tell you, well, you can take this and go on, you go on. And the thing about it, everything has side effects.
Yeah.
You take a pill for one thing, and that's a possibility it could cause 7 or 8 more things. So I would rather deal with the one problem and bear the pain of the one problem than to take something that's going to give me 4 or 5 more problems. Now, don't get me wrong. The reason I'm speaking on this because I've tried this. I would say through prayer warriors, people that that had strong beliefs that were praying for me, because at the time I really wasn't praying for myself. To be honest, I was just doing what I do, what I thought I was big enough to do. But during my hospital stay, my bones was in such pain, broken up, till I got hooked on the medication, and then I had to wean myself off of the drugs, and each drug had another. So here I am, a young man, taking 12 pills a day, you know what I'm saying, and trying to cope with anything that comes up in your life. They got a pill for it. All those pills that I had to take was because of the other pill that gave me the problem. So I had to give it up and turn it loose. But now I'm not a saint. I'll have a beer. I'll have a glass of wine. I'll do what I do. But the first miracle that Christ did was turn water to wine. And I really don't think he would have did it if he didn't want me to have a shot every now and then. So I'm not justified. I'm just, I'm trying to put it together. You got to believe it all the way or not at all. So I can't just pick what they like or what this person like and use that. You either believe everything or you don't believe any at all. But what I'm proud about is what works for me, and my faith have brought me out of a whole lot of situations because I've been told that I wouldn't walk no more, but I'm not in a wheelchair. You see what I'm saying? So I was too stubborn or too hard-headed to sit down in the chair. So I started walking behind the chair. And pretty soon, next thing you know, I had a walker, and then after a while, I had one walking cane, one crutch, and then from then I was back on the dance floor. But all that was because of determination, not accepting anything less than what was best for me. And to be done traveled around the world as a blind man, and then God restores me a partial sight. To where I can actually see the smile on your face, and not wonder what it looked like. That's a miracle within itself. And I'm grateful for what I learned in life. I'm not ashamed of where I come from. And I got a pretty good idea which way I'm trying to go. So everything seemed to be going according to the plan.
And yeah, you said that you went blind recently, very recently, only a few years ago.
Yes. I lost my sight in 2015, and I had a little short pity party. It didn't last long because. One reason it's a true saying, nobody really wants you when you're down and out, and if you lay there, they'll let you stay there, but you gotta be determined to move on. So I just started reaching for the next page. I heard about a place in Helena, Arkansas. They was having the festival. A friend of mine asked me to go with him, and I went. I took my guitar just for fun. And I found out there was a jam session, and I volunteered myself for the jam session. And the next thing I knew, I was the first one performing on the biggest stage in Helena, Arkansas. And I was doing it solo. And they was asking me, did I want someone to play with me? And I was like, nobody knows these songs I'm gonna sing because I wrote these songs, nobody's heard them before. So just let me do my thing. So I did it solo. And the crowd loved it. And they asked me to do another one and another one. And next thing I knew, I was busting on the other end of town. One guy came up saying, hey, I got somewhere you can sing all day. It started out having fun. And then people started tipping, and I was out of work. And I found out that I could make $400 or $500 a day, sitting out there busting.
Yeah.
And it started to getting better and better. And then the guy came up and asked me that's when I met Tim Duffy from the Music Maker. And he asked me would I be interested in doing it for a living. And yeah, it's a whole lot easier to crawl up on the stage than it is to crawl on top of a house, So being a retired carpenter, I'll take the stage in a heartbeat. But yeah, that's how it happened.
You were on America's Got Talent too, and how did
yeah. Actually, I didn't audition for that. One of their producers, young lady, saw one of my videos, and she reached out to my management company to see if I would be interested in actually doing the show. And I was like, are you kidding? And me and my daughter was in the Bahamas at the time, and when we got the news. And so then we left there going to Hollywood, and I had to do that first set. I knew I did Get It While You Can. My whole soul was into what I was doing through that mic. It didn't matter about the people because I could barely, all I could see was movements anyway. I really couldn't recognize anybody, but I could see the reflections of people moving, and unless they put the spotlights in the audience or something like that, I could see the smile. But when I found out how much people were enjoying it, then all the comments that we were getting from it, and so many people just started supporting us and saying, we got this, you got this, I could have used $1 million, I'll tell you the truth, but what it did to this, the opening the doors of so many, because I had friends that grew up with me in school, they went all over the world, and they recognized me from the show, and then it started me to get back in contact with people that are long lost friends that had been forgotten, and all the support. So yeah, it was a great feeling. But as far as being nervous, that never crossed my mind. I was more excited than nervous because it's an opportunity that I had been beaming for kind of like all my life. I had toured. I'd been to several different countries, but here in America, I had never sung before an audience of 5,000 people. And to get an ovation from 5,000 people turned on a light that'll never go off.
Did that kind of give you the confidence to then create this album and start putting out more?
Yeah, when people, so many magazines and radio interviews and TV interviews were asking the same questions, and that's what sparked the name of the album, Sharecroppers Son. So I said, well, instead of telling it over and over and over, let's just sing it, and people be more open to listen to the singing, because sometimes when it's just talk, people tune away from talk. But if it's music and in the background, they pay more attention to it. So that was just a way for me to tell my childhood story through the music and really get people to really listen. Because, like I say, if I was just talking, now you have so many listeners and followers that's gonna listen because of your show. But if they wasn't fans of your show, then they wouldn't know who I am, and they would, it wouldn't matter to them what I'm saying or what I'm doing. But they know that it has to be something about it, or you wouldn't be airing it on the show. So that kind of makes people pay more attention, simply because, not that they know Robert Finley because the album hasn't released yet, but you got fans that believe in you enough to know that if you say it's gonna happen, what's going on, then they're gonna tune in and see what you're talking about. So, you got fans just like I do. We just gotta get all our fans together.
Yeah. We're so glad to be able to share your story and share everyone's knowledge of you. I'm definitely excited to hear the album when it comes out, and I hope everybody else goes and checks it out too. You can hear 3 of the singles off of the album now: Sharecroppers Son, Country Boy, and Sold Out on You. And those are all 3 that are out currently, and the full album's out May 21st.
Yeah, the whole album coming out. I don't want to get into them because I don't want to give away the that first time people hear the album, because the first time, that first impression is the best impression. You'll never get over the first impression. So if they know what to expect, they'll be on their guards. But if I don't say anything about it and just let the album roll out, I think it'll be more interesting to people. But so far, the great support we have had, and we've gotten thousands of comments, and my daughter's also constantly reading emails to me and sending me stuff that fans are saying, and it's all it's all good. Everything that she's told me that come out, it's positive, and that's a good thing about it. So that lets me know that we on the right track, and can't wait for the world to be able to enjoy it. And I'm like a horse in the stable. I'm just waiting for the country to open up so I can run this race, and I can go back to doing what I love to do so much. Because as much as the people love being entertained, I have a greater love for wanting to entertain the people, because I get energy, hope, everything comes from their reaction when I'm on stage, and that makes you go back and try to be even better each time. We can't go backwards. I've been writing songs. Even this album hadn't been released, and I'm working on album number 4, because you got to stay focused. And I couldn't get disgusted with all this time alone and all this time at home alone. That was stuff that you would want to write about, and it's all about, like I say, all about real life. So hopefully the next album will be a good positive note to people, that give everybody hope. I've worked my way from the cotton field to Beverly Hills, so anything is possible.
Yeah, anything is possible, and we're so excited to see what comes next, and I know that we're excited for everyone else to see what comes next too. So I hope everyone takes a listen. And thanks so much, Robert, for joining me today. I was so glad to talk to you, and it's been a joy.
All right, thank you. I enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah. And thank you everyone who's watching today, and until next time, have a good one.